And then another storyline in the Big 12 is Texas. Look, they play UTEP. UTEP only won one ball game last year, but it's about Texas. And, 2 years ago, their quarterback and, stood on the podium after they beat Georgia in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans and proclaimed that Texas was back. And then they followed it up last year with a disappointing 8-5 loss or 8-5 season. So I'm really excited to see, can Texas get back to fighting for national relevancy? Tom Herman's been there for quite a while now. He can no longer point the finger as these aren't my players. I didn't recruit these kids. You're Texas. You're in the hotbed of recruiting. It's time this year for Texas to start competing for Big 12 championships and college football, playoff appearances.
Staying with Texas, I mean, statistically, Sam Ehlinger is probably the best non-Trevor Lawrence quarterback that's playing this season. What does he have to do besides, winning the Big 12, to get the respect nationally for what he's been able to do in college so far?
Well, you're right. I mean, he's been overlooked statistically, and he plays the position. You have to play a certain position to win the Heisman. You have to be, even on the offensive side of the ball. And he's dual threat. I mean, that definitely helps as well when you are multidimensional. But he just hasn't played on a team that has been nationally relevant. I go back to that word. I mean, Heisman voters love to vote for players that play on and are front of continuously on the primetime stages. I do believe Sam Ehlinger could have a season and should have a season statistically over 3,000 yards passing. He could rush for, 800, 900, maybe even 1,000 yards if they really get going offensively this year. But the problem is when you're 8-5, you're 7-6, you become irrelevant. And a lot of the people across the country kind of lose sight of you, and you're kind of out of sight, out of mind because you're not playing on the big stage week in and week out. So I think for him, it's about staying healthy, obviously statistically having a good season, which I expect him to, but it's about them, beating Oklahoma, winning big ball games. And as we get to late in the season, Texas is right there in the talk for one of the best teams in the country.